You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth's it doing here? Why, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. Do you feel it?
Faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
You're probably a bit confused right now. I broke the glass. It's all come back to me.
What is this?
That's my ship.
What?
Let me take it from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor. I'm a traveller in space and time. And that thing buried down there is called a TARDIS. Time and relative dimension in space. You're gonna love this.
Hey there, Station Who listeners. Welcome back to another fun episode. That's right, folks. We are back, and we are going to be talking all about the Sixth Doctor story, Vengeance on Varos. It's going to be a fun Doctor and Peri adventure at its best. Okay, I couldn't even say that with a straight face, and Mary's already laughing. We're going to try to be really nice on this one, folks. We really are.
We're off to a good start.
Oh, I know. And we've got a great crew to talk all about it tonight, and they're going to join us in all this fun. Thanks to our guests for being here tonight. Matthew Kresel, thank you, my friend, for being here.
Well, thank you as always for inviting me to come on.
Oh, Matthew, it's great. I couldn't think of doing a 6th or 7th Doctor story without you, so it's always a great time.
Much appreciated.
And of course, Dave Chapman is back with us. Welcome back, Dave.
Hello. Glad to be back.
Actually, you're coming to us from lovely Las Vegas this time.
I am. I was out. Steve James brought me down to Dice Tower West, so I was doing that, and I'm off to Reno here later in the week, and then back to Vegas again. So I'm down in Nevada for most of the month.
Wow! So he's just going to Reno to watch a man die. That's awesome. So that's awesome.
Boo.
Well, I think you could just show him this episode, so it's just as bad.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's true. And we also have our regulars. Of course, let's welcome Mary Ogle.
Hi, everybody. It is fantastic to be here.
Really?
Sort of. Well, I'm actually very happy because there are no other Sixth Doctor episodes until Trial of a Time Lord. So,
well, we have a lot of Big Finish to capture with him.
Exactly, comic books, Target novels.
Exactly. So we'll be going for quite some time. Don't worry. And of course, Mr. Howdy himself, Mr. Mike Gordon, is here.
Howdy. Yes,
How are you?
It's the week for vengeance.
Oh, that's right. Oh, speaking of that, I captured Ashley's saying, "I am vengeance." So we're going to be playing it all across the ESO network now.
I was going to say, it'd be perfect for this episode.
I'm vengeance.
Oh, exactly. So now whenever we say vengeance on Varos, we have to say vengeance on Varos. So
Right.
it makes it better than the episode actually is. So it'll be.
We have to do something to entertain ourselves.
It should be a ton of fun, and we definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. Feedback at earthstationwho.com. Please let us know what's going on with you guys. Did you guys like this one? This is true 80s Doctor Who at its best. And, it's
true 80s Doctor Who.
it totally is. And, and there's a lot to talk about on it. So we'll be doing that in a few minutes. But of course, we always want to see you guys, if you ever want to have Doctor Who talk or Doctor Who discussions or such, please join us over on Facebook. We have a great Earth Station Who group, and we don't promote it nearly enough, and we're going to start pushing it a little bit. And actually, one of the things we're probably planning on doing is taking the group private, because we've been having people post weird stuff since it's a public group, and Facebook just lets anybody in a public group post. And some people have been asking us about COVID and such because we're doctors, of course. And having to explain to them that, Doctor Who, not doctors who talk about COVID, so. And so we're looking at probably doing that in the next week or two. So you definitely can join in, though, in the meantime. And we definitely would love to have you guys participate, putting up funny memes, talking about who you guys think is going to be the next doctor. What do you guys think of Colin Baker's wonderful masterpiece here? We definitely want to hear all about it. So definitely join in with the Facebook group. It's a ton of fun and a lot of great people. And you never know. You might actually make a new best friend up there. Or not. You might make a regeneration guest or something. You never know. But anyway, definitely check out our Facebook group. Also, of course, we want to say howdy to our patrons over on the ESO network. They get this 2 days early because, they're patrons. They, donate to the ESO network, and as a way of saying thank you, they get our episodes 2 days before the rest of the world. So you get to hear this wonderful thing talking about vengeance on Varos 2 days before the rest of the world has to be tortured with it. So it's going to be a ton of fun to do. And we want to say thank you. And you too can sign up for the ESO Patreon by going to patreon.com/ESO network. Definitely check it out. All right, guys, let's hop into Doctor Who news. Still not a ton of new news, a lot of rumors, a lot of speculations. But one of the things that actually came out this last week in an interview, the Ninth Doctor himself, Chris Eccleston, came out and said there would be only one way he would return to Doctor Who. And this is a big step for him, actually, because he used to say there was no way in hell he would ever return to Doctor Who. I think he's kind of softening. He's finding out how much fun he's been having with Big Finish, being the Ninth Doctor again. And folks, if you haven't had a chance to listen to those adventures, they have been great. They have been a ton of fun. We actually reviewed the first episode that he did for Big Finish when we did this. I guess it was a special pre-Dragon Con virtual panel last year. Featuring the Ninth Doctor, and we did the Big Finish storyline there. And I think we have in a couple weeks down the line, we'll be talking all about the second one. So, I think we got that on our schedule. So we'll be talking about Chris a little bit. But it's interesting because Chris has, kind of softened his stance, and he actually has said that he will come back to Doctor Who only on one instance, because he says he would never come back for a multi-Doctor story. He said to him, multi-Doctor stories are all cash grabs. And I kind of agree with that in some ways. I love the multi-Doctor stories. Don't get me wrong. But, and they should only be saved for holiday, the special anniversaries and such, more than making them commonplace. But it's interesting that he said he wouldn't do that, but he would come back to Doctor Who if he could do a solo story. Would you want to maybe see a solo story like they did with Paul McGann as a special for the anniversary, for a 60th or something? What do you guys think of his attitude with it too?
You mean just a short episode, like a webisode?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be kind of fun, actually. If we could see something like that. I'm not sure seeing an entire full length episode is going to happen.
No, I doubt a full episode would ever happen like that.
Which might be why he's saying it to begin with. I mean,
also true.
Yeah, I mean, we also know that he's made comments before that there's no way he'd come back to Doctor Who with anything involving Russell T Davies at all. So I think that automatically rules him out of coming back for anything for the 60th next year. But I could see them making it work. You could do a one-off flashback episode, sort of tying in. And they've done it before in the books and the Big Finish audios, where you have a past Doctor setting up events for the current Doctor's story. So it's been done in the audios. It's been done in a couple of the books over the years. So if you wanted to do a one-off anniversary thing, it would be one way to do it. It ain't going to happen in 2023 though. And I'd be curious to see if it had happened in 2043 for that matter.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be kind of tough to see for the 70th anniversary. They could wheel him out or something by then.
It kind of bothers me though. He says that it's that multi-doctor stories are a bit of a cash-in. He said a bit exploitation is his exact quote. He says, creatively, they never worked for me. I looked at the script for the 50th anniversary, and I felt as soon as I said I wasn't doing it, it got better because, well, if I'm not in it, it's better. That's extremely narcissistic and and incorrect. I mean, I didn't see the script before the War Doctor was added to it. But let's say that the only thing that was changed was that it was the War Doctor instead of his doctor. I think that's a fantastic story. It's one of my favorite Doctor Who stories. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that story. I mean, is it an anniversary? Is it a special thing? Is it a cash-in? Well, every episode of Doctor Who they film is a cash-in. Like they want to make money with every episode. Yeah. So why would that be any different? I don't know. I can see where, in some cases it's done just to do it. But in the case of the 50th, I really don't feel like that was the case. I feel like they had a really good, strong script. And I think it actually hurt that he wasn't involved. They had to make up another doctor to come out of nowhere. And I love John Hurt, don't get me wrong. But I think that was all unnecessary and it was overcomplicated. It would have been fun watching the three of them work together. And we missed out on that opportunity because he just felt like, I think there was other reasons too. I just don't think it was just that.
Oh, definitely. I think it is something to be said about it. He thinks it was better without him. I don't know if it was necessarily it's better without him. And John Hurt's pretty damn amazing. And the War Doctor's a pretty amazing character. So I think that's definitely, a factor, I think, in that statement. I don't think it was quite as arrogant as it was. I think it was partly meant as a bit of a compliment to John Hurt as well as anything else. But there is something as well in that he doesn't look like he used to. He has not aged as well as, Paul McGann or, Matt Smith or
David Tennant for that matter.
Exactly. There's so many people. He does not look like what he used to. So that makes it harder because we know where he ended and how he looked when he ended. So it's like, how do you work that in?
Well, you could, I don't know.
Well, that's
ignore it like you did with the second Doctor, I guess.
Well, exactly. He could give him the gray hair like the second Doctor had and the six Doctors. But it was interesting that when, with him, I think the audios might be just a perfect fit for him because in your mind, he still looks like what he did and everything.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget that this is a guy who, now I'm not saying he's never been wronged, but he really is a sensitive guy. I mean, he has not a lot of good things to say about his time on Doctor Who. He has not a lot of good things about his time on Thor. He gets a job, he gets prominent, and he really is not afraid to speak out about it. So, he's kind of, a mixed bag. He does great work on screen, but off screen, you get a lot of baggage with him, I think, too.
Mm.
No, agreed completely with that. And he is a ticking time bomb in some ways because if you hurt his feelings, he'll come out and across the media and badmouth you. And he had no problem.
And you have no idea what will hurt his feelings.
Exactly.
He's just one of those things. And it's like, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but I think there's a reason why you don't see him in more and more high profile projects because they don't want to be bothered.
He's difficult to work with.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think RTD is going to be roaring to bring him back.
Yeah, anyway. I don't think so either.
Well, I think also too. I mean, he's also going back to what you're saying about high profile projects. I mean, he himself has admitted that there's been a few jobs he's done. The G.I. Joe movie about 10, 12 years ago, he did something he did because he was in Hollywood and he needed the paycheck and instantly regretted it. So I think he's said in interviews he's gotten a lot more choosy with the roles that he picks to play with as well. So it works both ways, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I he perfectly should do things that make him happy. And I understand that, and I'm not saying he wasn't wronged on anything that he's been in, because look, I mean, his time on Doctor Who, although we don't know exactly the specifics of everything that went down, like there was something that went down, and then both parties, I feel like, are to blame for that. And like on Thor, I mean, look, Thor, Dark World is not one that anybody really likes a lot. So, I mean, you can understand. And he didn't really have much to do in that one. And he's in on a lot of makeup. So you kind of understand that that wasn't probably a good job. But in any case, I mean, he's a good actor. If he does Doctor Who at all, I'm interested, because I do like what he brings to the table on screen. And so I just, I'm kind of miffed that he kind of says something like, and he seems like he does this sort of thing to get like attention.
That's why most celebrities talk to the media to get attention.
It doesn't help that, this clickbait society that we live in, it's like, it's everywhere. As soon as he says something negative about something, it's everywhere. He might say like 100 positive things about Doctor Who. That's not going to be everywhere, but this is, right?
Yeah.
Nope, exactly. And if he says nice things, they'll go, oh, that's nice. But then if he says something bad, oh my God. And he actually gave Jodie a huge compliment in that same article, though.
He did.
Yeah. And so that was really positive, that she's doing a fabulous job on the role. And
yeah, but that didn't make the headlines.
No, and it should have.
Yeah,
well, it depends on where you were looking, because I know the hashtag Not My Doctor crowd on Twitter had an absolute field day with those comments.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, I will say, like Mike pointed out, it's pretty disingenuous to say it's just for, multi-doctor stories are just for a cash grab when, Doctor Who's not a charity project. The whole point of it is to make money for the studio. I mean, come on. And that's just, it's just, it miffs me when he says things that don't really make any sense. In other words, well, this thing is bad just because I've said this thing is bad, without taking into consideration that, like the 50th anniversary was a really good story. So I don't see why you can criticize it for being a multi-doctor story when it was at the base a really good story.
No, agreed. And the 50th anniversary special, truthfully, was one of the best crossovers I've ever seen, and laid groundwork for so much more even in the future. Hell, we got to see Capaldi's doctor for the very first time. Hell, that's how he got the name Dr. Angry Eyes. Come on.
But even outside of that, I think it's a great, it's one of my top Doctor Who stories, period. And not just because it's a multi-doctor story, but because it's a really good story.
It's just a good story.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's beside the point that it's a multi-doctor story.
And so for him to take exception to that one in particular, and I just I don't see him looking at all the others and going, yeah, these are all, I don't know if he ever, I don't know. I don't know him well enough to know that if he's had a history of watching Doctor Who enough to know to comment on what is good Doctor Who and what's not.
Yeah, we see it's that sort of thing that makes me think he, that comment was specifically, he said it specifically because he knew it was going to make headlines. He knew it was going to bring him attention.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, good on you, Chris. You made some headlines. Yeah, exactly.
we gave it to him.
We just spent the last 10 minutes talking about it.
We just catered to him, but nobody listens to us anyway, so what does it matter?
I mean, the other...
What do you mean? We're on the top 100, Mary.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is that he said these things at a convention, being asked this question for God knows how many times now. That he's been asked it as well. So, and, for that matter, there was a time, when he said he would never do Big Finish. And then apparently literally walked off the stage at Galley, having said that, to have a conversation with Jason Hay Ellery that started the ball rolling on him doing Big Finish. So who knows, if you'll pardon the expression.
No, absolutely. It's a good call.
Very much so. I agree completely with that, Matthew. So that's enough talking about that guy. No more. We're done. We're done. Otherwise, there's no new Doctor Who news. The producer of Doctor Who has announced that the regeneration of Jodie's doctor is going to be epic. Of course it
Oh,
is.
yeah. Like they say that about every time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be sad. I'll be like, so
I'm going to be sad about Jody going.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not so much about Chris. Sorry, Chris.
No, I'm the same way. It's like, Chris, better luck to you. Hopefully it lands on your feet somewhere else, but get away from Doctor Who. So, but I will ask you guys this. Any predictions when you think we'll hear about a new Doctor? Do you think it's going to be by summertime? Or do you think it's going to be sooner?
Well, it's going to be harder to keep it secret when they start. I mean, they've already started like pre-production. So it's going to be harder when actual filming starts.
Yeah,
to keep it secret.
when it's absolutely necessary for them to reveal it because they won't be able to keep it under wraps, then that's when they'll reveal it, and who knows when that is. So, but obviously, to Mary's point, it's going to be before they start shooting.
Yeah, because unless they shoot the entire thing in studio,
right?
Yeah, which I suppose you could, but
which there's absolutely no way they can keep it secret. I mean, that was how John Sim coming back in the Series 10 finale ended up getting blown, was because some tabloid photographer was sitting there and just happened to catch John Sims out on location, and somebody called the BBC for comment, and then Moffat and them had to scramble to put him in one of the season trailers before the news could bust. If I had to take any bets on when we'll know, I think it'll be there's one of two places we'll find out. We'll either find out at the end of Legend of the Sea Devils, which is now going to air around Easter time, or we'll find out just a little bit after that in the May-June time frame. I know there was a lot of people who were betting money that we were going to find out here in a couple of weeks when the anniversary of Rose broadcasting is coming up, but I'm personally kind of doubtful of that. If it follows the trend like they've done with Capaldi and with Jodie, we'll find out it'll be on the tail end of some big event. So maybe a sporting event. So it seems to be when they aim. If you think about what they did with Jodie, they did it on the back of I can't remember what the big sporting event was that year, but I would suspect it'll be something along those lines.
Wasn't it Wimbledon or something like that?
That sounds about right. It was the height of summer, whatever it was.
Yeah, so it probably might have been Wimbledon, or it could have been one of the World Cup things. The silly football thing. All I know about that is Ted. All I know about that is Ted Lasso, so it's okay.
No, I think I definitely agree with Matthew there that Easter is a definite possibility, just because that would then cut off any tabloid stuff. Basically, that's a reasonable place for them to do it.
Well, and if you wanted to make sure that you got good ratings or better ratings for that episode, to tack on a thing at the end, you'll find out who the new Doctor is at the end of that would increase ratings of that whole story, I think.
Oh God, yeah, I would guarantee it. And the next day, of course, the tabloids in the UK would be going, so how long is this person going to last? Or, oh, so-and-so's already unhappy being the Doctor. It's like, yeah, exactly. So thanks, Radio Times.
If I had my way, we would find out who the next Doctor is in about episode 2 of season 14 when it airs.
That would be awesome.
Hide the ever-loving heck out of it. Bury it as deep as you can until it's there.
Well, it's funny as hell because we joked about it, I forgot, probably about 6 months ago, saying, wouldn't it be awesome if, they didn't know who the new Doctor was, and they didn't show it until the second or third episode of the season. The first couple episodes was like Yaz and Dan trying to find out what happened to the Doctor after she regenerated and searching for her. And because the TARDIS is there, it wasn't destroyed this time. And, they're trying to find her. And, they don't know if it's male, female, or Captain Jack. It's pretty awesome.
With a new companion.
Exactly.
It's not actually the companion.
Very interesting. Exactly. So there's a lot of possibilities there. And, that would be why we don't write Doctor Who, because we come up with great ideas here. That's right. So
yes, they leave that to Chibnall and whoever wrote Vengeance on Varos.
Oh, please. Oh, God. I have to look real quick because was it a Pip and Jane Baker one story?
Nope.
No,
Philip Martin.
no.
Because it had Pip and Jane Baker written all over it. So, okay, let's take a quick break, and we will be back in a moment to talk all about Vengeance on Varos.
Winter is coming. Prepare with a fine cigar and listen to the Cigar Nerds podcast. We smoke cigars and talk about movies and all kind of nerdy things. Available at cigarnerdpodcast.com. Also on the ESO network at esonetwork.com.
Welcome back. Now it is time to go to the Sixth Doctor era, and we are going to go back to season 22, the year 1985. Oh my God, that was almost my 18th birthday because it premiered January 19th, 1985, and my birthday is January 18th. So, wow.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
This is your present.
Exactly. Oh,
That
no.
was your gift.
What did I do wrong on my 18th birthday?
You've become a man. Now watch Vengeance on Varos.
Actually, I must have been too hungover from seeing Rocky Horror that night before because we went for my 18th birthday. So
That's okay. I can make you all feel real old because I was nearly -4 at this point. So
shut up. Shut up.
Where's the button where's the eject button?
Yeah, I am the only one who has that and Dr. Evil, so it's okay. So yes, it was interesting. Colin Baker, and you also had Nicole Bryant as Peri Brown, and thank goodness it was only 2 45-minute episodes.
The dream team.
Yes. And Judy was watching this with me, and she's never ever seen a Sixth Doctor story before.
Oh,
She never ever will see another one.
No, she's met Colin Baker with me before, but she's never seen an episode with him. And she says, "Why is they just showing off her cleavage? And why is he wearing that awful multicolored outfit?" And it's like,
good question.
Yep, two things right there, right from the beginning. This story. Wow. And she couldn't believe how phallic Sil was the whole time. It's like, what the hell?
And the whole thing's about snuff films, basically.
Yeah, it is. It literally is. It's, they come to a planet where people are entertained by watching torture and killing on TV, just like today, And it's really, really pathetic, that, it's a mining planet that, has fallen in disrepair, and they basically, the storyline really didn't even make sense. The Doctor wasn't there. He kind of helped free them, but he didn't. They did it to themselves in a lot of ways. So
but the ending, I kept looking at the ending thinking, this is just going to slide right back to where they were before. They didn't really resolve anything.
No, they didn't. They got rid of some bad people. They stood up to the conglomerate that Sil belonged to, and that was about it. Yeah,
the next one's going to come along. The whole thing's going to start all over again. They don't feel like they really learned much.
Welcome to real life.
Exactly. They didn't have any kind of government set up or any plans to be able to run on themselves, because they just had a governor. And when the governor didn't do what the people wanted, they killed him. Basically, they voted him out, literally.
I do have to say, living in Florida, I had some sympathy from that point of view.
that is one thing about this storyline is it's so modern. It terribly done, but it speaks to today. It's the same thing.
The philosophy behind it, yeah.
Yeah, only about 35 years ahead of its time in some ways.
Exactly. Might as well be a Simpsons episode.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. And that's why it was like seeing the people just sitting around, watching the TV. Oh, I want to be entertained. And then at the end of the episodes, when the TV went off, what do we do now? It's pretty much the same thing. What happens if the internet goes out? But it never will, folks. Don't worry. But yeah, people would be sitting around. What? We have to read a book. We got to talk to each other. We have to entertain ourselves. It's craziness.
The story's a bit, the way it's directed and everything, it's a bit meta too, because they're watching as we're watching, and they're talking about we need to have a how do we make the torture scene more interesting, more dramatic, and that's what happens, and we fall into that as well on the show. Like there's a little like a meta element to it that is kind of interesting, but it doesn't hold, unfortunately. Almost all the concepts and characters in this, they have potential, but they don't hold. They don't hold together at all.
No, they fell apart pretty quickly, and you certainly, I'm not rooting for anybody. And the couple is terrible. The couple we keep coming back to that are watching the shows, they're both very unlikable. And they don't have to be likable to gain my interest. They're boring, and unlikable.
And the least likable person stuck around for 2 more seasons before they fired him.
Exactly.
Touche.
Yeah. It is obviously the standout character is Sil, who goes on to he's in another later story, as well as a lot of Big Finish. Sil's an interesting character. I will say that Shaban, who plays him, is very enthusiastic.
That's one word.
Very much say.
Really over the top, and he's having fun. When everybody else looks miserable. It just seems like everybody who was making this just was having a horrible time, except this guy. Like I just imagine behind the scenes it was probably awkward too. But I don't know. I haven't seen Sil's or heard Sil's later adventures, so I don't know how well he's used in the future episodes of stuff. But
wait till Trial of a Time Lord, my friend. Wait till
that's a long wait. That's going to be a very long wait. But I don't know, Matthew, have you heard any of the adventures with Sil in them?
Yeah, there's at least a couple of other Big Finish audios. There's one they're both written by Philip Martin, who also wrote this. One of which was a story that was originally conceived of and written for what should have been the original follow-up season for this before the hiatus hit, called Mission to Magnus, where he's used pretty well, but Mission to Magnus has got some other issues, including some gender politics that sound like they came out of the 1930s, not the 1980s. And there's also another one called Antidote to Oblivion, which is actually probably the best of those 2 audios. And I should mention as well that Sil's gotten his own spin-off movie. So I think it's called The Seeds of Endor, if memory serves, or something along those lines, that was produced by Real Time, I think. And I know it's won a bunch of awards, but I haven't seen it.
Wow. Really? I did not know about that.
Yeah, it
Sil
came out...
and the Devil Seeds of Andor.
Thank you. I don't know how you pronounce it because I haven't watched the movie.
Yeah, because I was going to say Andor is Star Wars. So.
Yeah. Arodor. Arodor?
Arodor, yeah.
Yeah, please write in at feedback at
earthstationwho.com. Put in attention to Matthew Kresel to see how he could pronounce it. So definitely check that out. But yeah, I do agree. He was the most memorable out of all the characters that were introduced in this. It was interesting too, because like the governor was forgettable. The guy who was wearing the mask, the scientist or whatever, who was just into torturing people, very unmemorable. Even the guards and, was just like, it was so by the numbers. There wasn't even anything predictable about this, other than you got to see the Doctor holding a gun and shooting out a control panel. Take that for all those people who complained that Matt Smith got a gun and shot it. You know.
So there.
Yeah.
What about the acid bath scene?
Oh, that was gruesome.
And the Doctor's thrilled about it.
Yeah, he straight up murdered some people in this.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be so bad if he didn't have, like in the acid bath scene, he has that James Bond style one-liner after it's over with.
Yep.
And it's like, Roger Moore's James Bond can do that. That is not a line you give the Doctor to say.
No.
No. It's like Roger Moore, okay, Colin Baker, no.
Yeah.
And this is why I can understand why people were complaining, because at the time it was still supposed to be a children's show.
Yeah.
And, it was supposed to be family based. And this is part of the reason they had the whole crusade against Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I could totally see that. Then the scenes with Peri and that other woman being transformed into animal creatures. And, it's like, oh, Peri wants to fly and be free. That's why she's turning into a bird. What?
Yeah, and this is one of those stories. This whole season, for that matter, is, and I've often talked about the Caves of Androzani, which was Davidson's last story from the previous season, which a lot of people hold up and hold as a classic and one of the best stories ever made. Which it may well be. I'm personally not that enamored with it. But it's basically Goldfinger syndrome in some way, the same way the James Bond films got stuck for, 15, 20 years after Goldfinger happened, that it was always, we've got to replicate that formula. It's got to be slightly over the top and funny and this, that, and the other. With Doctor Who in the mid-'80s, with Caves of Androzani being such a big success, it's like everybody looked at that story and went, okay, it's a bit dark, it's a bit grim, the Doctor doesn't accomplish very much in the story, but people loved it. Let's just keep trying to figure out how to do this story again. And Varos, as well as this entire season and really the Sixth Doctor era in general, is kind of a sign of that. I mean, you're right down to the guy wearing the mask, which is, Cher's Jack all over again, for that matter. There's nobody in the story who's particularly likable or in the right, including the Doctor himself, which is slightly screwy, to be honest.
No, the Doctor wasn't likable very much. And he truthfully put Peri in danger quite a few times in this one. And it was also, there was, a few times, the Doctor always, like we've said multiple times on the show, the Doctor's always the smartest man in the room. Doctor wasn't in this one. He never even seemed like he was ever really in control of anything.
It seemed like he really cared.
That's more of it. I figured because he did seem like he knew what was going on, and he never seemed like he really felt like he was in any danger at any time. So I did feel like he was, but that's just it. He felt like he was above everybody else in this, and even his companion. And that's not the Doctor I like to watch.
Yeah, he knew he was going to get out of it. He didn't care about anybody else.
Yeah. Including Peri.
Yes, but maybe especially Peri.
It's like, yeah, go ahead, go with those people. Oh, yeah, don't worry if you get turned into a bird. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Part of the reason I came on, when I came on last time, I said, hey, if you've got any more Sixth Doctor stories, I would like to be in on that. And here we are today, because I've been working on the source book in the role-playing game for the Sixth Doctor. So I was basically already planning to binge Baker. This is the first time I'd done any of the Sixth Doctor stuff, was just in the last, couple months.
Ever? Really? Oh, wow.
I had never seen a single episode of Colin Baker.
Okay.
Until now. And it was really eye-opening, because you hear the horror stories of, oh, he's the worst Doctor ever, minus modern internet blah blahs, and how he's always at the bottom of all of these lists, and then you hear him in Big Finish, and he's actually really good. I mean, they redeemed that character so well.
Oh, yeah, he is good in Big Finish. Yeah.
And it was just, I think he was done a disservice, very similar to Capaldi and Jodie, in that he's good. He's so good at being so unlikable. He was edgy before edgy was cool, but he just turned into what? And this episode really kind of exemplifies that.
Yeah. I mean, I go back to Eric Sayward is going to leave the show in less than 18 months' time from when this was broadcast. And he does an infamous interview in Starburst magazine, which is floating around online. You can probably Google Eric Sayward Starburst interview and you'll find it. And he makes a lot of disparaging comments about a lot of people involved in this area, including Colin Baker. And one of the things he says and has said again on DVD extras is he thought Colin Baker was miscast. Now, it doesn't take a huge leap of imagination to go, well, if you're sitting there thinking your leading man is miscast, are you going to spend a lot of time and effort to make scripts for him work, or to make sure that his character is approachable and likable? I mean, I know that there was the sort of Mr. Darcy plan that he was going to start out as unlikable and get friendlier as they went along. But the problem is that you have to, that's a great idea for a story. Right. You know, for even the first couple of stories. It's another thing to do if you say, oh, this is going to be our big multi-year arc. Because it just doesn't work, especially in the kind of serialized storytelling that Doctor Who is doing in the mid-'80s.
Right. And it's okay if he's unlikable, but he's got to be unlikable, or he's bad, let's say, but he's got to be bad in a way that's compelling for people to watch. Like Walter White is a bad guy, but we're compelled to watch him because he's interesting. But they don't give the Doctor...
the writing is fascinating.
Right. They don't give the Doctor anything really. I mean, it's more of an attitude, and he just comes across as standoffish, and even the scenes where he's in the TARDIS with Peri at the beginning, they're just like not fun to watch. And usually those sequences with doctors and their companions kind of bantering back and forth are just charming character moments, and not so here. It's just it's painful.
Yeah, he gets instantly sulky. It's like, well, the TARDIS is broken down. You're lucky. You're human. You're going to die soon. I'm going to be stuck here for the rest of my regenerations. It's like, who is this character?
Yeah. You don't hear a doctor mention that either, that he's going to regenerate very often, right? He or she's going to regenerate. It's like they kind of keep that. They don't like to remind people of that because, I guess every time they're in a death situation, they're not really going to die. Well, I guess if you put the body in acid, they're probably not going to regenerate after that.
They regenerate. They get eaten alive, regenerate acid.
But Matthew, to your point, I did see online where it's Seward was remarking about this one, and he was really critical of the directing of this one. And look, I don't know if I don't really blame Ron Jones per se. I mean, is he the best director of Doctor Who? I don't know. He's directed some good ones, some good episodes, but I don't know. I mean, it starts with the writing, really, and this is not written very well.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do with the script.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was mediocre directing, but I mean, it's not as bad as the writing.
No, definitely not. But it's interesting because this series had been passed around for almost 5 years before this. It was originally done in the early 80s, and it was originally meant for Peter Davison's Doctor. And I don't really want to think about what that would have been like. Unless they would have pushed Adric into the acid. That would have been
okay. Turn Adric into a lizard.
Exactly, So,
I mean, Philip Martin definitely has a thing for the body horror stuff in here, because he also wrote one of the fairly early Big Finish 8th Doctor audios called Creed of the Crowman, which has Charlie Pollard, who's the 8th Doctor companion of that, trying to transform into something in the middle of that. And there's another thing, an antidote to Oblivion, where the 6th Doctor's companion of that, who's not Peri, gets infected with a plague at one point. So you do have to kind of wonder what in the world's going on in Philip Martin's subconscious to keep basically trying to do terrible things to female companions.
Yeah, basically fridging them. And it strikes me, this story is so dark. And even darker than I think it really is portrayed as. Because if you think about a lot of the concepts here, they're not ones I want to think about for very long.
Not at all. And especially reading and doing some research on this. I know, shocked, I did research. But, you saw that the original script had a lot more humor in it. And it's like, how could you add humor to this story? And that's...
Well, I'm almost glad they didn't.
No.
That would have made it even worse. I mean, the whole, I was talking to my sister about this, and we just decided you just feel kind of slimy watching this. It's just, it doesn't really have a lot of redeeming value here. It's just the people are awful. The story is awful. And there's nothing wrong with talking about the concepts. Now, I'm not saying that you can't talk about these concepts in a way that would make it compelling or, evocative or, really make you think about what's going on here and what the problems are here. But this is not a deep dive into philosophy. It is just, it's very superficial. And the Doctor is very removed. It's almost like he's just standing back and watching it happening and not caring at all, knowing that he's going to get his I forgot what it's called, Zyton 7 or whatever it is, and so he doesn't care about anything else.
Yeah. I mean, it is TV Doctor Who doing a full dystopia in a way I don't think the show had really done before or even since. And like a lot of dystopian fiction, it does not have, it's not a pretty world to be in. I am kind of, I would have been curious to see the version of it with some more of the humor in, because I don't know, because I think that's part of the problem with the story in some ways is that there's no shades of gray, as it were. It is all one thing. And I think that without that, it does become, as a lot of dystopian fiction is, it becomes unremittingly grim. But there's no sort of likable figure, as we keep saying, to latch on to. The Doctor included, to kind of sort of even the scales a bit.
Because exactly,
even the quote unquote good guys, the rebels, are not very compelling, or they're really bland, and they're not really that worthy of that anyway. And they keep dying around, and nobody seems to care. Not even their fellow rebels.
Nobody cares about anybody in this.
Yeah. Now, I will say that unfortunately. And it's most of the case with these that I've seen. Peri's role in this is just slightly above annoying, right? I will say in the first part of it, it did seem like Peri was the only one kind of looking around going, this is wrong. Like, I can't believe how bad things are here. This is so bad, but she never gets a chance to confront anybody about it. And then she's used for, fridging purposes later on. So it really doesn't matter. But there's unfortunately, they don't give, Peri anything worthy to do, really.
No, they don't at all. No, she doesn't come off, as brave. She doesn't come off as even a damsel in distress. She's just there.
Yeah. She doesn't come off as, she doesn't even show any emotion, even when she's turning into a bird. She's just like, oh, I'm turning into a bird.
Tweet.
You just want to shake her.
It's, it's things like this, stories like this, where you kind of look and you're like, well, I guess they only hired her for 2 reasons.
Oh, dude,
yeah, really? We all know. It's true, though, frankly.
It is.
Yeah. That's exactly how she's used.
I know. No, exactly.
Exactly. Let's have her run some more.
Nope. Exactly. Let's have her run. Let's, it's like, really?
Like, why not, put her in a thong? You may as well, with how short those shorts were.
I mean, they did start her out in the bikini, so.
They did.
They did. And truthfully, there was a couple times I caught her accent lacking. A couple times.
Oh, her accent is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, even she admits that.
We have to be reminded because she said Z instead of Z. We have to be reminded that she's American. I'm like, oh, okay, right.
Oh, Zed. It's like,
I was like, yeah. Subtle.
Yeah. It's the problem that British TV and indeed audio drama had until the last sort of 10, 15 years, where it was sort of, it's very much that it's a British person's idea of what an American accent ought to sound like.
Which is so strange. There are so many British actors that do work, and as Americans, you watch their work and you're like, I can't believe they're British. Like, you don't even know until you see the behind the scenes stuff. And yet you watch British productions and it's like they can't get the American accent down to save their lives. I don't know. It's just so strange.
Well, as I understand it, a lot of it has to do with the fact that the sort of union rules between here and the UK are so different, and particularly in the 80s were quite different, that you had a lot of British actors who were working in Hollywood. So you could rope them in to either play British or to do American accents. Whereas in the UK, because your number of American actors that you had in the UK in the 80s was like, you could count on one hand, apparently, and the way that Shane Brimmer and Ed Bishop turn up at everything from the late 50s all the way into the 90s, for that matter. So unless you were willing to pay the money to get an actor from Hollywood to come here, you grabbed whoever was British. You could do a quote unquote, whose profile in their agent's thing said they could do an American accent, and just go, well, the audience here is never going to know the difference. It came from an age where it was just the assumption of, well, nobody's going to see this outside the UK, so why worry?
We don't care. Yeah. I mean, we have no room to speak. I mean, we have Dick Van Dyke. So.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, God. Before we go any further, I wonder we should stop this and put it out of its misery. Wow. You had to play the Dick Van Dyke card. Wow. Oh, geez. All right. Any final thoughts before we go ahead and rate this one?
I do find it really interesting that Matthew has mentioned and referred to James Bond twice in this podcast, and it just so happens that Sean Connery's son is in this episode.
Yes.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yes. That is
and
true.
You know what? I don't know. He adds nothing to this, and if a Connery can't add something to it, then you're doing something wrong.
A Connery with his shirt off, too.
That's right.
Man, he's a scrawny Connery.
Yes, he is. But, yep. So, let's go ahead and rate this one. It's Mary Whithouse's favorite, so, And in honor of that, Mary, you're going first.
In honor of Mary Whithouse.
1 out of 5 TARDISes, 1 being the worst, and I don't think we can go below 1. So 5 being the best. Yeah. I don't think anyone will get near there. So
good as imaginary numbers. Yeah, this is terrible, everybody. It's really bad. I don't recommend it at all. Don't watch it. I usually don't say flat out don't watch it, but really don't watch it. I feel bad for Colin Baker because he's so good in Big Finish, but man, he saddled a terrible story here. Though to be fair, he doesn't do anything with it. And Peri is one of my least favorite companions, and boy, does she prove it even more here. So I'm giving it a 1.
Okay,
maybe a 0.5.
Yeah, well, you can do a 0.5. We do points in this. We do halves. And the cool thing with this, at least I will say, it was only a 2-parter. It was only a 2-parter, folks. I was worried when I had to go look. How many parts is this? Oh, 2. Thank God. I was worried it was a 5-parter or 6-parter.
Could have been worse.
Yes, it could have been so much worse.
Was this the first time you've seen this one, Mary?
Yes, okay. First and last time I've seen this one.
No, I've seen Sil because I've seen the Trial of the Time Lord, so I knew his character.
I mean, unless we do a riff track, so
yeah.
it's actually ripe for that sort of thing.
We might get to the point where we finish all material out there. Let's go back and let's review all the Colin Baker era, but let's drink while we do it. No. Or something. All right, Dave. Dave, go ahead.
I feel like I'm about to give it the highest rating of all of us at a 2. I have to watch it in a separate way. I watch it as enjoyable. No, as research material, as a study of a lot of different things. it gets higher because of that. Like just the opinion of television at the time, the way everything. There was so much that was bad about this that you just have to study how it was bad and why it was bad on top of just watching it.
As a study in bad television.
Yes, in bad television.
You're going to give it an extra point because it's educational.
Yep. I'm going to give it an academic extra point.
Well, there you go. All right, there you go. Matthew.
Well, I'm about to surprise everybody. Because prior
here comes the five.
Well, I'm not going to give it that high, but I will say that prior to rewatching it last night, having only seen it 2 or 3 times over the years, I would have agreed with absolutely everything that had just been said until I watched it again last night. Because my opinion of it used to be that it was slow moving, very dark, and very grim, and not very pleasant. Having watched it again, my opinion of it has changed a bit in that I didn't think it was slow at all this time round. I did find that it was a lot better paced than I remembered it being. And I like the ideas of it, I think maybe more than the execution, because there's a lot of interesting dystopian ideas in there. There's a satirical edge to it. There's the whole business about basically reality TV and voting. That's, in some ways, 15 years ahead of its time, given that we didn't end up with the reality TV boom till the mid-late 90s. And we're still feeling the repercussions of that today. And all that's there. And sort of there's an edge of political satire. There's an edge of basically a satirism of sort of the way 80s culture and economics worked. I mean, in some ways, Sil is like the ultimate yuppie in some ways, or at least the way that us millennials look back on yuppies. He's somebody who's got a ton of money, but no class whatsoever. I'm going to, throw myself around because I've got power and I've got money, but I have no class with it. And I laugh at the most inappropriate thing just because I can. And Sil's a wonderful character as well in this. Now, it's not to say that it's perfect by any means. Because as I've commented before, it's got problems throughout, particularly with the Doctor's characterization. And it is unremittingly dark and grim. It's got a dark sense of humor through it, which I think if you can appreciate that, which apparently I was in the mood for last night, I think you could enjoy those little bits of humor that's in it. But I think it's one of those stories I'm going to have to be in the right mood, in inverted commas, to want to sit down and watch it. And apparently I was in that last night. I would go so far as to say it's probably the best story of the Colin Baker era. But given the rest of the Colin Baker era, that's not saying very much. So I'm actually going to I will give it a 3 out of 5.
Wow. Okay.
And I am now banned from ever coming back on the podcast.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You are entitled to your opinion.
That was well said, actually.
This is the last 6 Doctor story we'll have you back for, though.
Until Trial of the Time Lords.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I would agree that the concepts are interesting, but they are done so badly.
Yes.
The way they played out was just really, really bad. I agree with that. All right, Mr. Mike Gordon, take us home, buddy.
Yeah. It's hard for me to find something really great to say about this. Although, to Matthew's point, I think we're in a time and we're living in a world now where, like, Varos looks good. Comparatively speaking. I mean, I said this about like when we reviewed the Batman. It's like when Gotham looks like a good place to go for a vacation, things are bad in real life. And Varos, there is a lot of like stuff there that it's like, okay, it's not a great place, but I do like some of the concepts that come out or that are involved with this. And I do like the idea and even somewhat the execution of Sil. I like the fact that I like it when they, when science fiction tries to take these stories and involve characters that are not necessarily humanoid and work with them. I mean, obviously Jim Henson and his crew would do this much better later on with like Farscape and stuff, but it's there. And I do appreciate his enthusiasm in the role, we'll say, because he makes it the most memorable of anything that's in this. So I'm going to give this, because of those things, I'm going to give this a 1.5.
Wow. Okay.
But like Mary, I'm not encouraging anybody to watch it.
There are better dystopian stories to watch.
And granted, we've got I can't, like, the thing that really bothers me, and the reason why we make fun, or, it's a running joke that the last thing we're going to do is on this show ever is do Trial of the Time Lord, is because of what Matthew said, is that if this is the best of the Sixth Doctor era, I honestly have seen now all of them except for Trial of the Time Lord. And I've seen this one twice for some weird, stupid reason. And
were you smoking some of that dope, Mike? Come on.
I have to say, this is the worst era of Doctor Who that I can think of, and I don't see any reason to revisit this at all. And I hate to say that because of Colin, as an actor and as his work is later, it's good stuff. But this is I just have found very, very little. And I know some people like it and some people enjoy it, but not me.
Yeah, if there's anything that can be said about the Sixth Doctor's TV era, is that it gave something for Big Finish to react against when they brought the Sixth Doctor back.
That's very,
that's
not disagreeing on that one. Not disagreeing at all.
Backhanded compliment, to be sure.
I could definitely see that. So, wow, but I definitely could see it. All right, my ratings. I'm probably going to go. I'm going to go in between everybody. I'm going to do 1.75.
Wow, that's higher than me.
I know. I enjoyed it for 2 reasons. And I don't need to say those 2 reasons because we're a family-friendly show. But I did enjoy. It's Doctor Who. It is Doctor Who at some of its darkest points in the series, truthfully. And it's a part where there was times I almost even gave up on the series. And walked away from it completely. Glad I never did, because I wouldn't be here with you guys. But it was not a good era of all-around stories. What next? We had the Ronnie story, which was Time in the Ronnie.
Yeah.
And that was not a good story. It had potential, but it just didn't. But I wish we could have gotten better with it, and I wish I enjoyed this more because it was my first time seeing it, and I really watched it even sober, so I tried to enjoy it. But
that was your first mistake.
I think so. But I apologize now to Judy for making her watch it with me, and I apologize to you guys for having to listen to us goof on it, because we don't like being negative about Doctor Who when we don't have to be. But you know what, folks? As we like to say, really bad Doctor Who is better than a lot of other things out there. This one almost disproves that. So,
I was going to say, this one challenges that.
That one does.
Yeah, this is the exception.
I mean, everybody out there complaining about Chibnall and New Who, really, go back and watch the Sixth Doctor era. And then let me know how you
Chibnall's a genius.
I will say, I'm no fan of John Nathan Turner at all. But I will say that, that what Chibnall is giving us is better than that.
Yes.
In my opinion. I know some people don't agree, but in my opinion, that's that.
There's 1 or 2 episodes that come very close to this. But
yeah.
But overall, I agree with that. Overall.
Those are almost his better episodes, though. The ones that are the worst are almost his best.
Yeah.
Because they're so bad.
Well, it's interesting because I was reading an interview about Doctor Who stuff, and someone said in the interview that Vengeance on Varos is one of the best of the Colin Baker era. That's why I was excited to watch this. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. No.
You're grading on a curve.
Yeah, exactly.
It
is a huge bell curve. A huge bell curve there, folks.
Yep.
So I actually enjoyed the Cybermen story that he did more than this one. Come on.
Attack of the Cybermen with the one right before this?
Yeah. Was better than that. But that's a very low bar, folks. A very, very low bar. So Dave has that quizzical look on his face. Like
Peri was definitely better in that one. I mean, she was less useless.
Well, exactly. So at least she was I didn't even look at her feet. Was she running around in high heels in this one again?
I don't think she could see her feet either.
Yeah. What are you
Okay.
He's going to look at her feet.
Wow. All right. So, folks.
So these are the two reasons. Okay.
Yeah. So, exactly. No. All right. So, with that being said, feedback, earthstationwho.com. All complaints, put them to Matthew Kresel. You know. So, we definitely love you, Matthew, but you're the guinea pig for this one. No. But
yeah, to quote my other favorite TV show, stand there and be wrong in your wrongness.
Exactly. Exactly. So definitely would love to hear from you guys. Thank you everybody for listening. We always appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We couldn't do this without you guys. Join us next episode because we actually are going to be celebrating our 10th anniversary next week.
Woo-hoo.
So that's right. We've been doing Earth Station Who for 10 years, and we're going to do something special for it. We don't know what yet, but we are going to be reviewing Arc of Infinity, the Fifth Doctor storyline, and which is a great, great story because it brings back Omega, which, you know, I've been predicting the whole new series since, you know, the Matt Smith era. Omega's behind this. It's got to be Omega. No.
You say Omega almost much as a lot of people say Valiant.
Exactly. So I don't say that word, so it's okay. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I know, Mike, you haven't seen that one before. Nope. So you're in for a treat. You might see some very familiar faces pop up in that one. So it'll be very interesting to see. So of course, we'd love to hear from you guys. And as always, you know, please subscribe to the Facebook group, subscribe to the podcast, you know, join, and, you know, rate us if you like. Don't take this episode as an example of what you should be rating on, but, you know, please give us a good rating. 5 stars if it's great, 4 stars if it's bad. So definitely do that for us. Of course, let's thank our guests for being here. Dave Chapman, thank you, sir.
You're very, very welcome. Anytime.
Anything you want to shout out about?
If you are listening to this podcast the day it is released, head over to therathole.ca/who, and you will find my brand new spanking live at the same time as this episode review of the Sixth Doctor source book for the Doctor Who role-playing game. You can see more of my thoughts on Colin Baker's delightfulness.
Okay. And Matthew, thank you, sir.
Thank you again for having me. Always a pleasure.
Dude, it's always great to have you, even though we were making fun of it a little bit. But it's always great to have you, sir.
Oh, I'm always thankful that you let me come back on.
Oh, we will. Just not for a Sixth Doctor story. Seventh Doctor, that's okay, because you do a great Seventh Doctor cosplay, so it's cool.
Yes, that I do.
Anything you want to shout out about?
Well, since the last time I was on the show, I think it was late last summer, I've won something called the Sidewise Award for 2020's Best Alternate History Short Story in an anthology called Alternate Australias from Sea Lion Press. So please go seek that out. And if you want to read more of my Doctor Who stuff, feel free to look me up on Warp Factor. And I'm currently reviewing some Big Finish stuff over there. So feel free to check that out.
Most excellent. Most excellent. And of course, thanks to our regulars for being here. Mary, thank you so much.
Oh, I was going to say thank you for having me, but it was vengeance on Varos. But it was fun. It's always fun talking to you guys, no matter what.
And where can people find your artwork?
You can find me at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Most excellent. And Mr. Mike, we made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as painful as it was to watch this one the second time, as always, it's my pleasure reviewing it with you guys.
I'm still amazed you watched this before, because it's like...
I'm amazed I watched it again. I'm not amazed I watched it the first time. I'm amazed that about 5 or 6 minutes into it, I'm like, I've seen this one before. And for the life of me, I can't remember why. I thought we did it on the show, but I've looked back and we have not. So, and I don't know why I've seen this one before, but I have. And Yeah, I'm just going to try to forget about it again.
Yeah, you tried to block it out of your mind.
Maybe in 5 more years we'll watch it again and tell Mike he's never seen it before.
Definitely, I'll believe you.
Of course you will. Of course. All right, folks, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully everyone's doing okay. And you know what? Oh, real quick. And folks, we are going to be at a con coming up in the end of March, in March 19th and 20th. We're going to be at the con formerly known as Atlanta Comic Con. It's going to be at the World Congress Center in Atlanta, Georgia. And Earth Station Who is going to be doing a Doctor Who panel, talking all about what's going on with Doctor Who now and talking about who might be the new Doctor. Maybe we might have some news by then. We don't know. And we actually had written the panel originally to be in July, so we originally thought we were going to know who the new Doctor was going to be by that point. But sad enough, we don't know, and so you definitely can check it out. If you go to the Atlanta Comic Con website, and it's going to be at, like I said, World Congress Center in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but we will be there Saturday and Sunday. We're going to be doing a podcasting panel. We're going to be doing the Doctor Who panel we talked about, and we're also going to be doing an MCU panel. So we are going to be talking about a lot of really cool stuff, and I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a really neat thing going on. It's called the Fandemic Tour, so is what it's changed into. So you can check it out, fandemictour.com, and you definitely could see all about the con. And they are making some amazing announcements with the guests they are going to be having there, including Barrowman's going to be there. So wouldn't it be great if he stopped by the Doctor Who panel we're doing? Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. You never know. So it'd be great. Definitely check it out. Until then, my name's Mike Faber. On behalf of all of us here, thank you for listening. Thank you for making it for 10 years. This is awesome. We are coming up on our 10th anniversary, folks. And Mr. Mike, we made it through 10 years together on this.
I'm surprised we made it through this one.
Oh, I know. Shocker. Thank you, guys. We will see you soon. Peace. And we are done. Bye.
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.